Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Jane.
Welcome to Love Letters, Life, and Other Conversations. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I am so well. How are you today?
Fabulous. Thank you for asking. We just had a long holiday weekend,
Oh,
Independence Day, and
mhm.
it was really nice. Keith and Amelia went camping, and I just worked and cooked and filmed for my Entertaining with Ease membership, and it was so great. It was lovely,
Oh, that's
actually.
great.
And I
That's
had a sink
fantastic.
full of dishes that would not make it seem as if only one person was home all weekend.
Isn't it incredible how many dishes you can accumulate with one person? I had
Yes.
the same thing when Pete went back to Australia to sort out all his mum's life after she had died. I was here for 3 months on my own.
Yes.
And, I still had the dishwasher on every single day because I just seem to accumulate a ton load of dishes. And
Right.
I think I was drinking a lot of cups of tea.
Yes. And you were just like I'm doing now because it's summer. I'm making a bunch of jam. And so
Yeah,
that
that's
creates
right.
dishes.
Yes,
And you were making
exactly.
all of those beautiful holiday recipes and
Yes,
packaging food gifts and doing
yes,
all sorts of things.
yes, exactly. Exactly. All of that was going on. So I completely understand how your sink became full.
It's amazing.
And
We are both very good at filling our days with good things. It doesn't matter if our quote unquote busy season with other people are over. It just
mm.
makes, oh, we have a whole day. We could do 1,000 things
Oh, I
if
know,
we had
I
a whole
know,
day.
I know. Talking about jam the other morning, I had some leftover apricots. I had some leftover rhubarb. I had a knob of ginger. I had some leftover raspberries, 2 punnets of strawberries, and I had 4 little pots of jam on the stove because I can't stand wasted fruit. So I'm
Agreed.
always making jam because I just cannot bear to throw it away,
Right.
which actually segues quite nicely into our love letter springboard today.
Oh, fantastic. What is it?
Well, I was having a discussion with a girlfriend this morning on the phone who I actually haven't spoken to for about 11 months for no other reason than life has just got in the way. We spoke for a couple of hours. Then I was flipping through Instagram, as I tend to do.
Yes.
I came across this: losing lovers, best friends, or even family members that you were so close to is one of the hardest pains you can experience. Going from telling someone about your day, about the accomplishments you've done, or the sadness that you're going through, just to have silence is heart-wrenching. It feels like a piece of you is missing. The only way to ease the pain is to realize that every day is different. Every day may not always feel better, but the pain becomes less and less as the days go by, and eventually the silence won't sound so loud anymore.
Wow.
And even though the telephone call with my girlfriend this morning that I hadn't spoken to for almost a year is not one of those situations. We've been friends since we were 8 years old.
Oh,
Uh, and I was her bridesmaid at her wedding. She's my oldest friend, and she's married to Pete's oldest friend. And I was the bridesmaid, and I was the bridesmaid, and Pete was the groomsman, which is how we met.
I love that
Um,
so much.
I know, right? And, there's an inextricable bond there that will be there forever. She had been through a lot in the last year. And I said, I feel so terrible that we haven't spoken. And she said, but I haven't rung either, Jane.
Right.
She said, it's not that you haven't rung me. She said, I haven't rung you either. And I haven't rung you because I've had so much going on. and so much happening that really I wasn't in any place to be talking anyway. And so it's not the same as the springboard that I've used, but it reminded me of something someone else said to me recently when she said, things are so complicated at the moment that I've wound back to zero just to deal with everything. Just like my girlfriend said this morning, I've had to really wind back and just keep it to my husband and my kids and our grandchild. And that's it, just to get through.
Wow.
And there's health issues and, with a child, it's really hard. But then when I read this, I thought, oh, this would be a good thing to discuss with Wendy. So losing lovers, best friends, or even family members that you were so close to is one of the hardest pains you can experience. Going from telling someone about your day, about the accomplishments you've done, or the sadness that you're going through, just to have silence is heart-wrenching. It feels like a piece of you is missing. The only way to ease the pain is to realize that every day is different. Every day may not always feel better, but the pain becomes less and less as the days go by, and eventually the silence won't sound so loud anymore.
Wow.
It's a platform called Luxadlet on Instagram. And I don't even know that I have ever read anything or been moved by anything on that particular Instagram before, but that really did move me. And I thought, it's true, isn't it? When someone is in your life, truly in your life, and then that person isn't anymore.
Right.
I think there is nothing more gut-wrenching, more heartbreaking.
Right. On so many levels. I mean, that deafening silence, and sometimes that comes with a physical departure. Sometimes that comes with an emotional departure, or something in the relationship has been severed or broken. And sometimes those are easy to define and pinpoint. And sometimes those are experiences where you just wake up one day and wonder how you got here, or when exactly did this happen? When did I stop hearing from this friend? When did I stop communicating with my partner? When did I stop having these regular conversations with my children? Like, life gets in the way, and it doesn't always have to be a certain
mind-blowing event.
Right. It doesn't have to be an experience or a fight or a death, sudden or expected. It just, like you said, life happens. Life gets in the way. And so in those times, I mean, I know it sounds to me like this quote is really speaking about someone who has transitioned from living here on earth to wherever they're now, but likening it to the conversation you had with your friends, like sometimes things just happen in our life that take us out of a routine that we used to have. And it reminds me even of the friendship maintenance that we have spoken about before on the podcast of, there are those people that you can, speak to them once a year or once every 5 years, but you are able to pick up right where you left off, and you have very lovely thoughts toward them and they towards you. And
you have a lot of memories together from a lot of decades. That was like my girlfriend this morning. Yeah, exactly.
But then there are other friendships and relationships that require daily input. And when that has ceased for whatever reason, that silence is deafening.
Oh, it's deafening, but it's also physically excruciating.
Agreed.
It hurts. When people say they have a broken heart, It physically hurt. I just thought it was really interesting. I'm going to call my friend from this morning Eve, like we do
Yes.
with all our friends.
Yes.
You know, it was funny because I was talking to her about that, and she was saying, will you stop beating yourself up that we haven't spoken for 11 months? I haven't rung you either, Jane. And
Mm-hmm.
she was the one that said life got in the way. And then she told me everything that had happened. I stopped beating myself up, and she laughed and told me, was I ever going to change? And
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah. And we had a few jokes. And then, you know, she referred to an incident when we were 10. She referred to
Oh,
another incident when we were 18. She referred to an incident when we were 30. You know, we have history.
that's beautiful.
And I guess that sort of relationship can weather all storms. Now, during the week, I had another, so I have another friend,
Evie.
let's call her Evie.
Let's call her Evie.
Evie. I got a Facebook notice. When was it? It was on the 30th of June.
Okay.
Requesting me to be a friend on Facebook. So I immediately sent her, Evie, a note and said, I didn't realize that we weren't friends on Facebook. Did you get the letter that I sent you 2 months ago? Because 2 months ago, I got a phone call from my brother asking me something about this particular friend. And I said, I don't know because we're not talking. I sound like a person that has all issues with friends, but I don't.
Right? This is juicy. Go on.
And anyway, but it prompted me to write to Evie and say, you know, I'm really, really sorry that we haven't spoken for the last sort of 18 months, but here are the reasons why. And I'm really sorry, but I want to break the ice by saying, look, this is what happened that night that I came and stayed with you. And the next morning, the things that were said, there were things said by Evie's husband that I was shell-shocked about. And I left with my mouth gaping open that morning and got in the car and was hysterical by the time I got back to my friend Mish's. This is all when I was in Australia in 2020. And I just couldn't continue a friendship. Now, that is, how old am I? I am 58 years old.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. Have been friends with Evie for 30 years. We've grown up together.
Wow.
But I was so traumatized by not what she said,
right?
The things that her now ex-husband said, that I just didn't talk to her for 2 years.
And she did not reach out to you?
She did a couple of times. And I mean, I gave her, I never ignored her reach outs, but I just gave very short answers and replies and responses, which is not me. Ask any of the other Eves in my life and you will.
Well, I'm sure Evie knew something was up.
Including yourself, Wendy.
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm like.
If you gave me a short answer, I might get on a plane.
Yeah.
Like something is not right.
Something's not right. That little passage just really resonated with me this morning because of the conversation this morning, because of and the Evie,
yes,
that I spoke to on the 30th.
Yes.
We then instantly FaceTimed each other and spoke for an hour.
Yay.
And it was like we'd never not spoken.
That's beautiful. May I ask you a question about that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you learn in that conversation that you were your feelings of what occurred previously, were they validated, or did you realize that there was a misinterpretation? Or
there was no misinterpretation of what I felt.
Okay.
But what I came to realize in the moment was that she sat there as a wife and she was loyal to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I gave that enough credit at the time. And I actually came away from that conversation. And her birthday was on the 1st of July. And so, I was very keen to, because I sent her this letter 2 months ago and I thought, oh, she doesn't care about, starting to communicate again. So I'll just leave it. But then I thought, no, when I got this Facebook, invitation request, I thought, oh, maybe something went wrong with the letter that I sent. And she said, my Facebook's been down for months. I never received it.
Right? Like sometimes we build a whole story around something that didn't actually happen.
Exactly.
I mean, there's
and when I sat there and I really thought about it, Wendy, I thought, well, what would I do in the same situation? A girlfriend comes to stay. We're all sitting around having breakfast the next morning. My husband, which would never happen, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
He would never sit there and be rude about someone.
I don't know. Sometimes they surprise us. That's like saying my dog would never bite anybody. It's like, how do I know?
Oh, well, I guess you're right. But,
if they rolled around in bacon, my dog might bite them. I can't be sure.
Anyway.
Everyone owns their own experience.
Everyone owns their own experience, exactly. Even though she sat there and listened to the garbage and the poison that was pouring out of her husband's mouth and didn't say a word about it.
Right. Do you talk to your mother with that mouth?
Would I have done any different if that had been my husband spilling poison out of his mouth? I don't know that I would be. There's something about that sort of loyalty to your partner.
And perspective and history.
Exactly.
And
exactly. I was walking out the door 5 minutes later. She had to stay there with him.
Right. Right. She probably was blinking in Morse code. Save me. Can you save me, please?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it just really gave me a jolt, and look, in so many respects. I mean, that passage this morning made me think of my mum.
Yeah.
I still, to this day, mum died in 2007, but to this day, I will still think, oh, mum would love to hear, she'd love to see that. I mean, I don't go to pick up the phone anymore. I'm not mad. But
I'm mad. I do that about my dad.
Yes, but your dad has only been gone for just over a year.
Yeah, 2 years and almost 2 years. Yep, you're right.
Almost 2 years.
And we live far away from each other, so it would be normal for me not to see him. But I forget. You forget that you can't pick up the phone and talk to him. So, and I just think it's a wonderful passage in so many respects. Whether it's, between a husband and a wife or two partners, whether it's between two friends, whether it's, between lovers, between sisters, between cousins, that doesn't matter who it's between. It's all the same stuff that we experience. Yes. Shall I read it one more time? Would you please?
And then you can tell me what you take away from that.
I have some thoughts.
I bet you do. Losing lovers, best friends, or even family members that you were so close to is one of the hardest pains you can experience. Going from telling someone about your day, about the accomplishments you've done, or the sadness that you're going through, just to have silence is heart-wrenching. It feels like a piece of you is missing. The only way to ease the pain is to realize that every day is different. Every day may not always feel better, but the pain becomes less and less as the days go by, and eventually the silence won't sound so loud anymore?
Well, the first time that you read it at the beginning of our conversation, my thoughts were for people that have physically departed. And as we've continued our conversation, my thoughts have come to relationships with people that the relationship has just changed. And so I think my takeaways revolve around perspective and revolve around my personal responsibility and the thought of the concept of owning my own experience. So if I am withholding my side of the relationship to prove a point to the other person, who chances are isn't even thinking about me, like I'm giving so much energy to how hurt I am, that would be a waste of my time. And so I think that I'm just such a fan of using your words. And if there seems to be something that's happening, have the conversation, because chances are the narrative that I'm creating is far worse than the actual facts. That's happened on multiple occasions. And then also, even in the relationship with my dad, if I have something that I wish I could say to him, I'm just going to say it. And I could send him an email. It's not going to bounce back. I'm sure that account is still open. So it doesn't matter to me. I can leave him a voicemail if I want. I mean, he used to leave himself voicemails. Oh my gosh, he was so funny, Jane. He would, from the outside, you might think he was self-absorbed, and he probably was a little bit self-absorbed, but he would leave himself a message as a reminder to himself. And he would say,
I love that.
He would just call himself, and instead of just listing what it is, he would say, Jim Hall, you handsome guy, you're amazing. You're killing it today. Don't forget to get some milk on the way home. I'll see you later. I can't wait. You're my favorite person. Bye. I mean, like,
oh my God.
Walking
Wendy, I might just interject here.
Please.
Is it any wonder that you are who you are?
It is no wonder that I am who I am. And I think
I love that
he loved himself helped me believe that he loved me. When he said those kinds of things to me, I believed them, because that's what he says to himself.
Exactly. That's right.
So to say, sometimes time passes between friendships and relationships, and that is normal, and that's what happens in life. And you just, if you're thinking about that person, just connect. Connect, do your best.
That's what prompted me to write the letter to Evie. And it was funny because it was during the April Chateau Life residency.
Yes.
And one of the guests and I were talking about this very subject, and I told her all about what had happened with Evie. And she said, write to her. She said, I can't believe that you haven't already. She said, because you don't usually leave those sorts of things unsaid. And I said, yes, but the things that her husband said were so shocking. And he didn't say anything shocking about me.
Right.
That I just couldn't, I said when I wrote to her, the poison that spewed out of his mouth just left me absolutely flabbergasted. So anyway, that is sort of my takeaway from it, because I used it on so many levels today. So many levels. On that, on my phone call with Eve this morning, who I hadn't spoken to for 11 months, and she didn't know that we hadn't spoken for 11 months. I said, do you know that we haven't spoken since your granddaughter was born? And she said, no. And I said, yes, that's how long it's been.
And then that makes sense, right? Because what if something happened with the birth of the granddaughter that took all the time.
Yes, I think that that quote just resonated on so many levels with me today. Or that passage, I should say. It wasn't really a quote. It was, one person's ramblings. It just made me think about, 2 or 3 relationships. Gave me some real perspective.
Isn't that a gift?
Oh, is it a gift or what?
Perspective is a gift.
Oh, perspective is a wonderful thing. And that perspective also travelled with me to the prefecture today to get my carte de séjour. I'm able to be a French resident for yet another year.
Oh, well done. Do it well, ma'am. Do it well.
Yeah. And I just had some of my favourite music on. On the way there, I listened to Birdie. On the way back, I listened to Adele. I sang to every other car on the highway.
Brilliant.
People did look at me strangely. I love that whole, every day may not be better, but the pain may lessen.
Right.
And whether it, and that's very much what it's like when someone dies.
Right.
But the thing about people that leave your life but are still alive is there is always the chance that they might come back.
Right. And you'll find that sooner if you take the opportunity to reach out.
Exactly.
Yes. So, it's interesting, this balance between having perspective, which requires us to look outside of ourselves, and also be introspective and own what is our opportunity for growth, and use our intuition and have good boundaries and all of these. It's just a dance. It's just a dance.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, I have loved our conversation today, my friend.
As have I. And I'm very happy I don't have to manage this dance by myself.
Me too, because it's sometimes fun to dance alone, but it's always a lot more fun to dance with someone.
I think so too. Thank you for your time today. I loved our conversation.
So did I. And I'll speak to you again next week.
I look forward to it. Bye-bye. We have loved this conversation and sharing this love letter with you, and we would like to invite you to send us your love letters. Visit the link in the show notes to send us your letters and to join our email list. See you next week. And make it overflow. The thoughts of this chateau gently whispered. Trust her word.